Good morning, everybody. KT here with Wise Images Photography. Welcome to my channel and thank you so much for coming and tuning in today. So I am going to go ahead and go over a photo critique. I have three different photos. They're very similar and I'm going to go ahead and kind of go over what I like about them and what I don't like about them, and we are just going to go from there. So let's get going. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at our first picture. This is a picture of a green heron. They're kind of like more of the shorter herons when it comes to birds and whatnot with your heron group anyways, and they always have like this big thick neck and it just kind of reminds me of like a football player, you know. But I really love this photograph because I think it's very cool, and I definitely break one of the rules here when you look at this image. You can see that, I mean, I basically put this green heron smack dab in the middle of the frame. And so there, you got no rules of thirds going on here. What I do like about this image is that I have the reflection going on. So you do have that technique going on. I also feel like you have a little bit of the leading lines here, and the leading lines would be cutting straight across with this kind of like this mossy green, you know, where you have your lettuce cactus here, and then you have a little bit of green there, and then almost in the back, when you look in the back, you have greenery here that is going vertical, but then you kind of have a little bit of like the lily pads, and so it's kind of like you have this middle section with the lines going horizontal, and so that kind of, it's almost like it's breaking it up into some types of thirds, because you have all your grasses going vertical here, and then you kind of have like a horizontal section here in the middle, and then you have the reflection with the water. I also kind of feel like, you know, you have this stick. Now, it was funny because when I came back to this picture and I looked at it, I was kind of like, oh my goodness, I'm like, kind of looks like a snake coming out of the water. So, you know, when you look at something like that, at first I felt like it was a leading line, but when I returned back to this image, I was like, oh wow, that kind of looks like a snake coming out to get the bird. Which, hey, I mean, you know, it would be sad if the snake got the bird, but it'd also be very cool. I mean, that's kind of how wildlife and nature is, right? Survival of the fittest. So if a snake were coming out and get it, and you know, that would be a wild, crazy shot to get. So I do feel like that stick is a little bit of a leading line there. I also love the fact that we have this little dragonfly, and he just kind of comes on to scene here. In the back, especially here in this middle position, what's going on is the sunlight was coming through kind of from the backside, and that's why we have this little green heron. You know, we have like that rim lighting right there on his back. You can also tell it's coming right over his head here and a little bit down his beak. You can tell that even looking at his legs, I did blow out his legs just a little bit, especially on this front one right here. When you kind of go in a little bit closer, you have a lot of highlights right there. And you can tell even in the back there, I did go ahead and I kind of blew out a little bit of those lily pads. I mean, a lot of times in the early morning, you're going to have, and this was probably, it wasn't quite golden hour, it was a little bit after golden hour, but sometimes the intensity on the lake is really bright. And normally sometimes in the morning you have a lot of like dew on the leaves and whatnot, and I think that has something to do with it as well. It kind of seems to intensify the light. One of the things that I did in the editing room with this particular photo is I did go ahead and darken the background just a little bit here where you have all your vertical aquatic plants. And then I also went ahead and down here on the bottom, I went ahead and made it a little bit darker too. And some of the things that I do now that I've kind of like, I remember that I wanted it darker down here, simply because there was like this weird little kind of, really didn't add anything to the photo. It's just like this random kind of bright spot, and I've looked up ahead and I'm like, well, where is that reflection coming from? I have no idea. So some of the things that I didn't like about this image is the fact that I did blow out. I blew out parts of this image, but I do love the fact that there's this dragonfly. I love the fact that he's, you know, he's in that staunch position. So, you know, he's definitely he's definitely on the hunt. He's on the prowl. And then one of the things that I noticed when I came back and looked at it is that I was noticing some specks every once in a while, and that's just some dust particles that were in the air at the time that I was shooting. One of the things is because he was so backlit, I did end up using Topaz AI to try to get rid of some of the noise, because there was a lot of noise in the original photograph. But also too, whenever you know, if you don't have like that directional light, you look at the details. When I blow it up and go really close, and I'm pixel peeping now, you can see that I lost some of that detail on the bird, is kind of what happened. So from a distance, it's really hard to pick it up. It looks like a great photograph, but if you pixel peep, then yeah, you can tell that I lost some of the details in the feathers and whatnot. But overall, I do like the image, even though I'm not following the rules of thirds. I'm breaking that rule, but I compensated because I kind of have like these leading lines, and I have the reflection going on as well. Now, let's go ahead and go to the next photo. It's very similar. Maybe it's not going to work. Why are you not wanting to work right now? Aha, there we go. All right, so now we go to the next image. Now, if you notice, it kind of looks really different because on the top, I did not darken down the image. On the water side, I did not darken down the area. So whereas before, if you guys remember, I've said in the past, is our eyes are always drawn to the most brightest part of the scene. And because I darkened the top and the bottom, your eyes were naturally drawn to where that little green heron was. And what I also like about the dragonfly in this picture is you can't really see his eye, right? But you can tell by his angle that his eyes are facing us. And so I feel like with his eyes facing us, that's one of the things that I'm gonna, what kind of drew me more to this image over the next two that I'm gonna show you. Also, the other thing that I didn't mention with this is that if you notice, I'm also eye level with the bird. Whenever you are eye level to your subject, remember the eyes are like the way through a photograph. And so being leveled down to his eye, it makes it for a better image than if I was way high and shooting down on the bird. All right, so here's the next one, and like I mentioned to you all, I did not darken this area on the top. I did not darken it in the bottom. It's a nice photograph. It's cool. I mean, come on. I mean, you got a dragonfly like coming over the bird. I mean, it's cool. But like in the other one, notice you got it's like the dragonfly's eyes coming into the photograph. Here, you're kind of missing the dragonfly eye, but it's still kind of cool, right? And you still have all the other elements of the reflection. You kind of have the leading lines, but without it being dark, it may take you, you know, without it, the darkness kind of drawing your eye to the subject, it's almost like you kind of have almost too much going on, right? In the back, you're like going, oh, there's all these aquatic plants here, and you have all the distraction in the reflection as well with the aquatic plants. But with it being a little bit dark, if you notice, it kind of just draws your eye right to where the subjects are. All right, so last but not least, let's go ahead. In here, you can really notice in this picture, the dust particles kind of moved a little bit. And at first, I didn't notice it, and that's why I didn't take them out. But looking back at them again, I'm like, oh, I wish I would have noticed that before. But I'm a little particular. This is the last one. Notice I did not darken in on the image on the bird from the top and the bottom. Left it bright, but when I was looking at them, I liked the sequence of events, and I do like the dragonfly, but once again, he's not looking at the light, or not looking. He is looking in the light, you guys, because the light's coming from that way, because the light's here and he's coming this way. So, but you know what I meant to say was, like, his eyes are not looking at the camera. He's definitely looking at the light. Poor little guy. I feel bad for him. All right, so needless to say, you know, even in this image, you know, once again, we're backlit, so we lose a little bit of the detail because, you know, the way the image was shot is you have your bird here and you have the light source coming from here, and it's coming this way, right? And so this side of the bird that we're seeing, there's no like light. And even with the reflection, when you think about it, because I'm like going, okay, well, you know, light, the water would be a light source, or the water would be a reflective source, right? But the thing is with the sun coming in, think about it, the sun comes in and it just bounces off this way, okay? And with the subject being here, it's like going this way. So it really wasn't reflecting back. You know, if maybe he had been maybe on land or something, and maybe if the log was lower, depending on the direction, it could have, you know, I'm thinking there, I'm trying to think of a scenario, like maybe if there was a hill, let's say, okay, here's an example, what might have been able to reflect back on this bird. Let's say, for example, here's the bird, right? We're on this side with the shooting. So if the light were coming here and coming back up, and let's say, for example, there was some type of hill here, then the hill could have reflected the sun back to the bird, and then we might have had a little bit of fill light on the little green heron, and that would have been potentially given us a little bit more detail in him. But because of the way the sun was coming, it was basically coming in and bouncing out and going the other way, and so you had sun coming from behind and then making the side that we were on, or the side that I was on, it made him a little bit darker. I hope that made sense. I hope that did. All right, so anyways, one of the other things I wanted to make sure and check in with you all is, if you have not grabbed my How to Step Up Your Photography Skills and 5 Easy Steps, make sure you go ahead and grab that. Got lots of different techniques in there to help you improve your photography. I want to say you are awesome. Have a fantastic rest of your week, and I'll see you later, alligator.